Now, first, the story you're about to hear is going to be very difficult for those who have to tell it. And if you're a parent, you'll never want to even entertain the idea of losing a child, and certainly not in tragic circumstances, and certainly not on the far side of the world. But that's what Hughie Bolton has had to come to terms with. And his family indeed as well, when his son Donal was killed by an out-of-control car in Australia 2 years ago. Now, imagine the trauma endured by Justine Walsh, Donal's girlfriend, because she was with him when the awful events unfolded and still feels the effects of her injuries. But they have both come in to talk to you because the family is having great difficulty in securing a permanent memorial or a plaque or something to mark the event in Cairns. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Give us an idea of what Donal was like. Help us to know him a little bit better.
Well, he was a big, strong, hardy, I suppose, fun-loving lad. He was into history in a big way in school. I suppose he wasn't the most academic person in the world, but what he was interested in, he was very good at. He was History Student of the Year in Tullamore College, and he's leaving that year. He loved sport. Wasn't at the time in the papers they talked about being a talented football hurler, but I don't think even Donal would describe himself as a talented footballer hurler. But he loved sport. Played football in Ireland with the local club in Raheen, followed Offaly and Manchester United and all those kind of things. And he loved life. He lived a short life, but he lived it to the full.
What did he want to do for a living, or what were his ambitions?
Well, after school he had a couple of different jobs, but eventually he got an apprenticeship as a fitter fabricator with concrete and quarry here in Tullamore, and he really got into that and loved it. And he said he was with them for the full apprenticeship. They were very good to him, actually. The recession hit in 2008. And the end of 2008 they were letting people go, but in September and August, but they actually held on until November, till his apprenticeship was complete, and they were very good to him that way. So after that, unfortunately, he couldn't get work. He got a day here and a day there, but he couldn't get anything. And my sister's family were home from Australia in that Christmas, and him and Justine decided to give Australia a try for a year to get a bit of work and get a bit of experience.
How long were you and Donal going out, Justine?
Yeah, we're going out for 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
And Australia was a destination for a year, I think, and you were coming towards the end of that year.
Yeah, we're coming towards the end of it. Yeah.
How had the time been up until the tragedy?
That was brilliant. Enjoyed every minute of it. We worked with horses for 6 months, and he started off, he didn't like it, but in the end he loved it. He hated leaving there.
Why? What did he not like about it initially?
I think he was afraid of the horses, to be honest.
Yeah, he wasn't.
He was well able for the work, and he enjoyed it.
And what were you doing there?
Well, I was just going out and feeding the horses, and I had an easy job.
So how far had you to go until you were returning home? Was it only a matter of weeks?
Yeah, we're coming home for his birthday, so we're flying home the 29th.
And the tragedy happened on
the 5th of January.
On the 5th. Now, I don't want to bring you back to that day because you were there and it was awful, but just give us an idea of roughly what happened.
We're just sitting on a wall, kind of like where gigs would be played. They call it the Mushroom in Cairns, and there would have been trees around the area, and I just heard a screeching noise, and with that, whatever way I turned out to my left, which stood away from Don, and all I could see was a car coming through the gap in the trees, and then I don't remember. I just got thrown off, and Don got thrown off, got caught under the car.
I was reading some witness reports from the time, and by all accounts it happened very, very quickly. Yeah. So what's the next thing you remember?
The next thing I remember is just kind of, I was being dazed. All I can remember is looking up into the clouds, and I can kind of see people, but I couldn't hear. And then the ambulance came, so.
What injuries did you suffer?
I suffered injuries to my legs, my hip and my back.
And have you fully recovered, or is there still a bit of pain?
No, still today my back has caused me a lot of hassle.
How long were you in hospital?
I was in hospital over in Cairns for 3 days.
And Donal, I can't imagine getting the phone call. I presume it was a phone call, but what was that like?
Actually, it was Justine's parents called to the house. Justine had rang them and told them, and they came. They thought we would know actually by the time they arrived. It was early in the morning, maybe 8:30. My wife and daughter were up, just about ready to go to work, and
but that would have been I don't want to bring you back to that. That would have been awful. But
It was every parent's nightmare. Under disbelief, shock, all the things you would imagine. And but eventually we rang Justine and we were talking to her, and we knew it was a fact. Like we were told it was a car accident, and I suppose like everyone else, you're thinking, well, sure, you had no car. How would you be killed in a car accident? Stuff like this. But anyway.
How much information did you get as time went on as to what happened and why it happened?
It was slow coming through. Justine was suffering from shock, and we spoke to a police officer that morning, and at that stage we just got that he was sitting on a park bench and he was hit by a car, an out-of-control car, and not really much more. And over time then we were in touch with the police out there, and we were in touch with the coroner's office out there, and we were able to get some of the police files. So basically this man, who I believe is not a very well man, and has suffered from kidney trouble and stuff like that, he was in hospital that day getting dialysis. Now, as if I remember correctly from reading the file, he actually didn't complete dialysis. He was a bit unwell, and yet he got in a car to drive, and witnesses say they saw him driving around erratically for some time before the accident. But basically, it's where Donal was sitting is in a park, a small little square, almost on a 4 roads, and the road comes down and goes around an EU, but his car came down and it didn't take the EU, it just went straight. Now, we went out there last year. One of the reasons was to put up the memorial, but two other reasons were to see the spot where he was killed and to try and get some appreciation of how it happened and what happened, and also to meet some of the people that came to his help and Justine's help. And if you set somebody there and you tried to kill them with a car from where he did it, you wouldn't do it. It was just one of those freakiest things. He missed 2 trees. He missed, you could. I'm sure you could try it 100,000 times and it just wouldn't happen. It was just one of those real freak accidents, and he was just unfortunate. He was unfortunate in the wrong place.
But this man, as a result of the medical factors and circumstances, he hasn't been held to account as such for what happened.
No. Because he was deemed to have had an epileptic fit, which he never had before, to say, they have a thing in Australia which is called a no-fault accident, and this has been the decision by the police not to prosecute because they've decided it's a no-fault accident.
But you want something in that area to mark what happened. It doesn't have to be a grandiose memorial, but just some recognition of the life that was lost. And you're having great difficulty and you're encountering resistance to this suggestion.
Yeah, initially, actually, through some contact Justine had, we were led to believe that it might be possible to do this. And Justine emailed, I think, the Mayor's office in Cairns, and they came back to us then. A man was appointed to liaison with us, and we made a few suggestions as to what we would like.
What had you in mind?
Well, initially we came up with the idea of a piece of bog oak, because it was a local thing here and from the Midlands and stuff like that. We were going to buy it and send it out and all this kind of thing, but it became very obvious fairly quickly. Well, I can't honestly say they absolutely said no. There were so many hoops and jumps you would have to do to get it done, and they were talking about the fact that even if you did agree to put it up, they were going to change that area, and then the roads would be changed and it might be all locked down and stuff.
Change the area in what way?
As in, because of where the park is, they've actually got 4 roads coming in, and 2 roads you can come down and turn around and go back out, and the other 2 are walkways. So they were going to take the whole city place out so you can just drive through it.
So that any memorial you would put up might have to be taken down again in the future.
Yeah,
it's like the area would be like kind of say where, do you know Supermax in number 1? You know the way that has the
in Tullamore, in the heart of the town.
It's kind of like that square area where they have the 4 roads each side of it, and it's just the park is in the centre.
So this change, when is that supposed to happen? It hasn't happened yet, evidently.
It hasn't happened yet.
No, they said within 2 years, but sure, Dawn was 2 years dead last week, and nothing has happened. So, they suggested we could put in a pub down the road or stuff like that, but to us, it was the spot where he was killed, and that's where we wanted something small. Memorial is a very grand word for what we want, a small plaque on the wall. And the idea behind it was, Cairns is a particularly strong tourist area, and a lot of Irish tourists go there. And we thought, it would be nice if they looked ahead and stopped and thought on for a moment. So we got, as I say, my sister and her husband are in Australia now. They're a good bit away, 3 hours drive. But they just came back to us and said, look, what people do in a lot of cases out there is actually just put up their own thing. And in most cases, it's left. So we said, right, this is what we're going to do. We were going out to Australia last April. Myself, my wife Meg, two other kids, Elaine and Owen, Justine, her sister, and Elaine's boyfriend. There were 7 of us went out. And Dennis out there arranged for a small plaque to be made. He had a kind of a picture of Donal engraved in it, and just his name, Offaly, Ireland, died tragically at the date, and just fond memories from family.
How large was the plaque?
So
1 foot.
Not even that, say 7 inches, 8 inches square. It was a
8
small,
inches square.
roughly, yep.
And it was mounted on what?
On the bench, not on a little. There's 2 benches, 2 walls. You call them a bench because they're only 2 foot high. The back wall was where Donal and Justine were sitting, and maybe 10 foot more, 15 foot forward was the second wall where he actually ended up being under the car. So we mounted it there.
So it wasn't an obstructive memorial. This was a plaque, and really nothing more than a plaque.
Yeah.
And how long did it last?
We think only a couple of weeks. No, we only found out. My sister has done for a while out there, and she's been trying to organise something out that side because she didn't want to tell us that I was down. And on his anniversary, we always arranged a very kind lady out there who knows my sister in Cairns, and she will put flowers at the spot for his anniversary each year, and she sends us pictures of the flowers. And my sister realised once we saw the picture, we would know that the plaque was gone. So she rang us actually on his anniversary that morning to tell us the plaque was gone.
Reopens the wound a little bit, doesn't
it does. Oh yeah, it was. As you can imagine, each anniversary is tough, and to get that news.
Because it was the one thing that we kind of could do for him, for people to know, and then it's just been taken away.
And did the local council in Cairns offer a reason for taking down something that seems very innocent and not in the way?
Well, to be fair, they've actually denied that they took it down. Now, our information is from a witness. It was people wearing what looked like council uniforms that took it down. And this wasn't, this was glued to the wall with industrial adhesive. It wasn't easy to take down. I think they had to use jackhammers to get off the wall, and they took down tiles, stuff like that. So it seems a very harsh and ruthless and, just a cruel thing to do. If they were changing the thing and they were knocking down the whole place, you couldn't argue. But I'm sure the people of Cairns and the area don't want their council acting in this kind of heartless or ruthless fashion, over what was a very small thing, but it was a very important thing to us.
Well, you could understand if you were mounting an advertising placard or there was something offensive on it, but this is purely a mark of remembrance. So, as it stands, and I presume you're still in contact with the council in Cairns, what's the latest? Are they going to move on this at any stage, or is it a matter of waiting for this regeneration work to take place?
I think we're still waiting to hear back from...
Yeah, basically what we've done... Well, my sister wrote a letter to the Cairns Post, highlighting the case and asking why the memorial was removed, stating that there's a memorials in Childers in Australia and a few other places erected by councils, now for much bigger tragedies where there was more than one person killed, but and it was published in the Cairns Post, and that was followed up by a lady ringing them, a journalist, and they did an interview with that, and that was on the Cairns Post on Monday with pictures and stuff like that. So what we've done here is tried to highlight the case here. Justine got on Facebook and set up a site and has been doing Trojan work on that, and shows the power of the internet. And it's been tough because when Donal died, there was a lot of publicity because it was such a freak accident and it was so far away. And as a family, we made a conscious decision not to get involved in it, not to do interviews, not to talk to people, because we wanted our grief to be private. But we had to do this. And to be honest, the last place I want to be is in a studio. talking about my son's death. But it's the one thing we can do.
But can I just say to you, and I know you can't see Donal and you can't see Justine, but if you were looking through my eyes, you see two people who are very brave and very composed in the circumstances. And this is an incredibly difficult story to tell. And it's important to understand why you're telling it. How much does this frustration add to the very raw and very real pain that you're still feeling, barely 2 years on?
Well, I don't know how you describe it. It brings everything back up. Like, you know, as I said to someone, when you lose a child, and I know in the Midlands, there's a lot of people have lost their kids. And I've been to 3 or 4 funerals in the last year or two since Donald died. And, you know, their grief is every bit as strong as ours. And I don't want to make it sound like we had suffered beyond that. But, you know, what you do is it's a pain that is there every day, and you lock it away and you try and live your life and get on with your life the best way you can. And stuff like this just brings it to the fore, and you have to start dealing with it all over again. I'm not saying you actually ever deal with it, but you know, you try to put a face on it, you do your day-to-day work and you look at it. But at the same time, you know, this, as Justine said a minute ago, this is the only thing we can do. You know, we can try and keep his memory alive. He had a short life. He was a lovely lad, and you know, once he met Justine and stuff like, he was so happy, and they were a lovely couple together, and we were so lucky. Since then, you know, Justine has been a real tower of strength for us, and I hope we have for her. So we're just going to keep fighting. You know, we've been on to the local council, county council. We're hoping we're on to Gerard Plunkett, and he's going to have a motion to send a letter to the Cairns Council and the Australian Embassy. And I think Brendan Cleavey is going to do it with the Tullamore Council. Like, really, we've only started, to be honest. As I say, we only found out last Thursday. We kind of waited to see what the reaction would be in Australia from the letter, or from the journalist piece. And what we're hoping people might do is that they might, if you Google the Cairns Post, if you search an article, you'll see the article on Donal, and that they might email them and encourage them. We haven't gone back to the council yet. We're hoping to generate a bit of momentum first. I didn't see. My 2 brothers are going out there in March this year. I'm going to visit Cairns. And hopefully we might be able to do something then. Yeah.
Well, I know there are tens of thousands of hearts all over the Midlands breaking just listening to both of you today. And you have got, I don't know how much support from people who are listening. We've had some lovely messages. And we wish you the best with it. And if only you didn't have to fight this difficult battle. But to both of you, thank you so much for being brave and coming into us today.
Yeah, well, I would just like, you know, the support we got from family and friends, and you know, during the time, Donald, it was unbelievable. And workmates and our workplace, we can never thank the people in the area for what they've done.
Hughie Bolton, Justine Walsh, thank you both very much for coming into us.